YouTube upload. All right. I hope you can see my screen at the moment.
Yes, we can see the screen. Yeah, we can see that slides now. All good.
Okay, awesome. So let's start. Like I said, this started with, it was absolutely unintentional, and because my wife runs a Marathi school from Springfield. And she had a few students, and that's how it came. These kids are going to go to the movie, and they don't know any background about Pawan Khinde or Chhatrapati Maharaj. I mean, they knew the name, but they didn't knew, who he was and what were these events, why did they unfold, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason we basically did this story with a bit of pictures presentation, so that the kids can actually understand the movie a lot better than otherwise. And movie should not be the only medium to learn things. Yeah, it is an effective medium, but at the same time kids should also go beyond that, because movies can always be a narrative builder, and depending on which part of the history that anyone is referring to, it depends on what history is portrayed. Anyways, that was the primary objective, and I spoken to Babuji this week earlier this week, and we realized, hey, can you, since the content is made, can we do this? By the way, in the month, I'm also, like I said, I'm a student of music. I had been doing a lot of music shows all across the globe, and this October I'm going to do, like my usual Gita Ramayana show, which is primarily, and the objective of that show is primarily look at Ramayana not as a mythology but as our history. And so that so that we kind of do this every year, mostly free shows, but if there is food involved and all, we'll get to the details later, and I'll keep Babuji posted. So okay, let's begin now. All of you definitely have heard about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. It is obviously, especially in Maharashtra. I mean, yeah, I don't know why only Maharashtra mostly, but he is a kind of a leader or a king, because of which there are Hindus left in India. He stood like a rock, and not only himself, like it was not only about him, but even after Maharaj was long gone, even then, how the Sainiks, or how the army fought, how the followers fought for next 27 years under various different leaders, and how did they defeat Mughals, and then eventually again Hindu Samrajya was established, is very very important. Even after 27 years, the Sainiks actually could go down up till something like Afghanistan, and establish the empire. And that is the greatness. I wouldn't say he is the leader of Maharashtra or India, but if we study as we go forward, you can't find a leader like, worldwide you can't find a leader like Shivaji Maharaj. Anyways, but that's the background, and we can get to the question and answers a bit later. But just wanted to let you know, this is very very important. Apparently there was some painting done by Britishers back then, and this was a closest one that was a copy, which was hand done by one of the Indian long ago. So the story that I'm going to talk to you about was primarily, if you know that British ruled us for about 150 years, but it is also known that there was a parallel empire of Hindus and Mughals for about more than about 850 years, and we were exploited. And primarily, if you see, there were five sultanates. They're called, let's say Bijapur Sultana, okay, Bidar Sultanate, Golconda Sultanate, and then there was a Vijayanagar Empire down there, okay. But we are going to talk today primarily about the Bijapur Sultanate, and it was one of the big ones, okay. It was, as you could see, it's not up in the north, but rather in the south, and some of the forts which were there, and especially for kids, you probably would not know what was the importance of forts back then. The entire economy of any country was primarily based on the agricultural produce. okay, or whatever. So it was all based on farming. Now what is it directly proportional to is the land, and how the land can be controlled or surveilled is through the forts. And hence, building of such forts from where surveillance could be done and control on the land could be kept while keeping the army safe and people safe if need be, is primarily was done through forts. So as many, even now, even now, if you see even today's warfare, you having a control over specific checkpoints. For example, Kashmir, or if you go up in near POK, that is very important to have control over certain checkpoints, and you can assume these forts were like checkpoints, but these checkpoints were like big cities. Like we'll go through some of those pictures, but it was very important who has got control over those many forts. Okay, and in Bijapur, like I said, there were five different sultanates. One of them was Bijapur. It was Adil Shah, which was it was the longest empire that was there. So there were different kings even before Adil Shah and even after him. But his era was and his mother, of course, their era was the longest and strongest back then. Okay, up after Mughals, up in north. Uh, and this guy was one of the, and what used to happen, so primarily, assume again, I'm good, I might explain a bit of basics here, but the way things work is that these empires are expected to collect the taxes from people, and that's how they're going to grow their wealth, and they're supposed to do certain things for the citizens, not necessarily were done by anyone. However, how did they keep control over such a big land mass? They obviously had their own sardars, and they were eventually, 80-90% of that army was primarily, initially it was only Hindus. Okay, and slowly the Muslim population started growing, and that's how the divide was there. But there was a majority of their army was Hindus, but they didn't realize whom are they serving. Okay, same as in Bijapur, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja's father was actually a part of that Sultanate, was serving them. He is the one first actually thought about freedom, okay, and creating Swarajya, which means our own Hindus Rajya. And when I say Hindu back then, it was never limited to a specific idea, but it was more like we are going to act like the servants of the people, not like the king. And yes, absolutely, back then was a major threat to Hinduism, and hence it started. Okay, but Shivaji Maharaj's view was never ever limited to only Hindu, Musliman, and things like that. Okay, he thought that anyone who wants to rules by principle and acts as a servant of people, obviously he would be collecting taxes, but that's for the betterment of people. Anyways, so Shahaji Maharaj actually was serving into the same Sultanate. Okay, however, eventually he was cornered, and obviously his major rival back then, in terms of their courage and what work that they have done, his name was Afzal Khan, and this guy was like really strong. And Shivaji Maharaj, as all of you know, he actually started the wars when probably he was when he was a teenager. When he first started, he was 14 years old. So he knew back then, obviously, his mother's teachings. He started back then that he's the one who's going to do it. And this was creating a bit of rift between the Adil Shahi and Shahaji Maharaj, that, hey, look, your son is actually not doing things right. He's basically trying to rob our own Sultanate. And Shahaji Raje, obviously he was happy with it, but he could not show because he was still serving the same army. He said, look, he doesn't listen to me. Now it started creating so many problems. He started gathering a lot of army, and by the time it came to such a big conflict, he had an army of thousands of people. Okay, and then they realized that, hey, look, this guy has grown quite a lot, and we need to ensure that we basically go and now stop him, kill him, and stop all his movement. Otherwise, at some point in time, Adil Shahi will be in trouble. There were lots of battles were fought back then, but none of them were conclusive enough, but they were lost by people because Shivaji Maharaj was very, 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 very smart. He never came to open ground and fought. Okay, because he, first of all, he had a very small army, and so he could not fight, come at the plain ground and come and fight because of the strength of the army. But more importantly, it was not the time. These guys were used to fighting on open lands, but not in the mountains and so on and so forth. Hence, they could not win. Now, this guy Afzal Khan, like I said, he was very, very strong, but more importantly, he knew that Dakhan part. He knew that part really, really well. He knew the mountains, he knew the people, and he was definitely a practicing Muslim, definitely a bit dharmanda, as in definitely very, very driven by Islamic principles and so on and so forth. But at the same time, he was also a good ruler. And there were times people have said that if there is a court case, like a court-like case, or if he has to do some judgment, he actually sometimes have given the judgment against Muslims as well. So that's how he was. And now they basically put up a thing saying, hey, look, someone has to come stand up and give justice. Someone, justice as in, to the Adil Shahi, and go and kill this guy. No one was ready to kind of to stand up and say, hey, I accept the challenge. Afzal Khan was the one who actually picked up that particular challenge and said, his words in Marathi were, I'll translate them. His words in Marathi were, Chadhe ghodiya nishi gheun yeto, which means I even don't have to get down from my horse. I'll be sitting on my horse. I'll just catch him by my hand and bring him here, which was absolutely impossible. But he was not only strong, like 7 feet tall and whatnot, but he was also very smart. He knew the sentiment on which Maharaja's empire was built. So that's exactly what he did. He started off from Bijapur and started traveling towards Maharaj were back that time were on Pratapgarh, and he started off going towards Pune, Tulzapur, and started burning villages on the way. He went to Tulsa Bhavani Mandir and basically broke the statue itself. Okay, he basically cut cow inside the mandir. Okay, and ensured that the pujari is made to eat beef, and so on and so forth. So, and he was the only thing that he was thinking about was Shivaji will come out in mad anger, and obviously will make mistakes. When we are angry, we make mistakes. But Shivaji Raje was smarter than him. He knew that what are his tactics. He wanted Shivaji to come out of the mountains and jungles and come in the open ground to fight him. Okay. Also, please also remember that though there were a lot of atrocities being done by Afzal Khan on the normal people, no one ever came forward and begged to Shivaji Maharaj to come and open and fight. And they said, no, what you're doing is absolutely right. And Shivaji Maharaj kept informing him, look, I'm scared of you. You are a big guy. You are coming up with a big army. I cannot fight you. I'm scared of you. All these were nothing but tactics. And he said, look, what we could do is that I am at the moment at Pratapgarh. As you could see here, I'm pointing out with the mouse now. I'm at Pratapgarh, and I cannot come to you. You have to come to Pratapgarh because I'm too scared. What I could do is that beneath Pratapgarh, I can make arrangements for you to come and meet me at a meeting point. Okay, so this is first thing. Always fight your war at your terms and at a place of your convenience. Okay, because he knew that near Pratapgarh, first of all, there is his capital, which is Raigad, which is nearby, and there is enough mountain and jungles around for him to run away if need be. Okay, or He and looking at, there is a ghat called Ratodlisa Ghat. He knew that the Mughals never knew how to kind of, they were a big army. It is difficult to kind of carry everyone. So he knew where to fight, and that's how they met. And this is Pratapgarh, and beneath this Pratapgarh, he basically set up a tent. And in tent, it was the terms were discussed, because Afzal Khan was also very very smart. He said, look, we need to think about the terms. And those terms has to be equally suited for each other. None of us will come with the army. Okay, we will be meeting without any weapons. Is individually two of them, Afzal Khan and Shivaji, but it was still in favor of Afzal Khan because he was tall. He was very very strong, and Shivaji Maharaj was like about 5.5 feet tall, and not obviously not physically strong as Afzal Khan. So it was suiting in his favor. So Maharaj also said that, look, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we both will be without any weapons. We both will have our advocate. Now they used to say advocate back then, or wakil, but primarily it is like a primary advisor, security advisor, or any sort of political advisor who will be with them, each one of them. And at the same time, they will have, each one of them will carry 10 select soldiers who will be, the term used back then was like, if I throw a javelin, at that distance they should be at, they should not be very near to the tent, and which is countering to, even if you look at the Olympics at the moment, it is about 80 to 100 meters range they should be at. And there'll be Aurangzeb, there'll be Afzal Khan side's 10 soldiers, as well Shivaji Maharaj side 10 soldiers. Now, very, very importantly, to be noted that Afzal Khan was carrying, along with those 10 soldiers, he was carrying one of the best soldiers. He was known to jump 12 feet at one go before making a before basically swinging his sword. He could actually jump 10 to 12 feet. That was his style. And he was extremely brilliant in warfare. Okay. And his name was Sayyid Banda. Okay. So Maharaj knew that. Maharaj already knew who are the guys who is he traveling with. Another psychological thing Maharaj did is that Maharaj never used to stay in very flamboyant tents and all. But he especially ordered and built a very, very flamboyant and beautiful looking tent. And he kept a lot of things inside it. So psychologically, when Afzal Khan comes, he would be looking at things like, oh man, this Shivaji, this is how he lives. And he actually sent his lawyer first, before he coming out of on the left hand side. What you see there are the stairs from Pratapgarh, which are coming out to the tent. Now, he individually didn't go alone. He didn't go there. He sent his advocate and said that, look, he's still scared. You settle down in the meantime, and then he'll join in. And he started talking to Afzal Khan, okay, saying, look, this is how your Shivaji lives. Like, he looks like he's very rich. He said, Maharaj, this is not for Shivaji. Shivaji can't afford this. It is because for you, because you're coming. He basically went and begged to people, and that's how he kind of got it. And he said, look, anyways, you're going to capture him now. So this tent, what is Shivaji going to do with this tent? He's just scared. Just don't kill him. You want to take him, and take all these tent and everything along with it. Think about it, Afzal Khan's, though he was focused, his focus actually moved from, that capturing and killing. He basically was lured towards all these expensive things. This is how he was, started playing with Shivaji Maharaj's, Afzal Khan's mind. Now, finally, Shivaji Maharaj came in. While watching, there are more details to the story, but I'm being wary of time. I know still about only 14 minutes left, and we will be able to cover only one story. But if you see here in this picture, if you see Maharaj's right hand, can you see there's a Vagnaka, and this is how it typically picturized, okay? But these were not, they never wore on the outside, they're actually on the inside of the hand, and I'll show you. But this is how their physique were. Maharaj basically, though there was no weapons were allowed, Maharaj ensured that he had his armor beneath his shirt, or angarkha as we call it. He had a bichwa, which is a very very small, sharp knife. Okay, but look at the shape of bichwa. It is always curvy. It is that's basically to kind of ensure that when I make a cut, it basically goes around. Okay, it doesn't only go and poke one organ, but it will go and cut multiple organs. That's why he carried bichwa. And on the side, on the bottom there, what's written tiger claws. We call it Marathi. We call it waganakhe. Okay, they're worn inside so that they're not visible on the outside. Okay, here on in this picture, that's why, it depends on who makes the movie. That's why, people sometimes don't even realize, the directors, that what they're showing is not the truth. So they're worn on the inside of the hand. Okay, they're called wagnake. This is what he went with. Okay, and then obviously the first thing we even do today is kind of, when you meet someone, you give alingan. But the idea behind Afzal Khan's Alingan, what he did, because he was smaller, while giving Alingana, he ensured his neck is under his arm, and he was also carrying weapon, because Maharaj always knew that this guy is not fair. He is going to use he's going to carry some of the other weapon. Now there have been few things. The reason why I've written that here, some of the stupid doubts that people have is that, oh look, he was killed by betrayal by Shivaji Maharaj. There are a few people who think that way, and you might find someone in future who might actually want to debate with you on that. I would ask a simple question to them, saying, was Afzal Khan coming down to play Monopoly with Shivaji Maharaj, or was he coming down to capture or kill him? Obviously, he was there to capture or kill him. Okay. Having said that, people think, oh no, 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 some of our Hindu guys who would start saying that, oh no, 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 actually look, Afzal Khan first, actually, if you see on the left hand side, he first went and attacked on his back, and that's why Shivaji Maharaj actually went for a kill. And I would say that, he was not a sadhu sant or whatever. Even if he would have not done that, or what you see on the left hand side, he would have not attacked first, and Shivaji Maharaj killed him, I still feel that is absolutely right thing to do. Someone who's coming out to us as an attacker, we should be able to kill them. We should be able to kill them proactively. Do not wait for a reactive action to happen. Anyways, this is how it happened. He held his neck, and then Shivaji Maharaj basically took his Vagnakha, and I think it is more clearer out here. That's how it happened. Okay. As soon as that happened, obviously it took a bit of time for him to kill him, because he was a huge lad. And after about 2-3 minutes, he started shouting daga daga, as in, I had been betrayed, I had been killed. He's the one who actually first pulled out the knife and tried putting on Shivaji Maharaj, but he's saying daga, as in, I had been betrayed. And that's exactly when these 10 guys who were working, who were standing and waiting for the skirmish, if there is any, and suddenly they started running towards the tent. Now you had two people who were outside the tent, which were the advocates. But remember, back then everyone was a fighter. Even the advocates was a fighter. So Afzal Khan's lawyer or advocate, who basically pulled out his, because Shivaji Maharaj was busy with Afzal Khan, he pulled out his sword and actually swung towards Maharaj. And Maharaj, basically, beneath that cap that you see, he was wearing a jireto, which means a metal helmet, okay, on top. And Maharaj was hit right here on the forehead, okay. But fortunately, because of the jireto, he was not cut deep, but he had a small cut on his forehead, okay. And he sat down. But by then, Sayyid Banda came in, okay. And Shivaji Maharaj had someone called Jiva Mahala Kashid, okay, who was expert into, if you see this weapon, it is called Dandapatta, Okay, this is probably about 2.5 to 3 meters long metal blade, which the quality of this is that this blade is not stiff. Okay, it is stiff enough to cut someone, but it is very, very flexible. What it allows you to do is that it swing it in variety of different directions, and you can basically create a whole circle of 3 meters where people cannot touch you unless someone shoots you from, and there were not many guns back then, okay, or some javelin, okay. Otherwise no one can come nearer to you. So this guy was really expert in running that. And if you see on the left hand side, again, these are not the correct depictions, everything is a correct depiction, but if you see, Sayyid Banda is trying to make that jump on the left hand side to kind of get to Shivaji Maharaj and obviously kill him, but at the same time Yomala on the right hand side with the Danpatta. Basically, what happened, as it is noted in the history, he almost reached Maharaj. Okay, and Shiva Mahala basically, Shiva Kashid, my apologies. Shiva Kashid basically cut his hand in the air using Danpatta. Okay, otherwise that would have also reached Maharaj, and that's how he was saved. Obviously, there was an army waiting outside, but back then people used to fight, especially Mughal army. They used to fight for a leader. They never fought for a principle or a motive. The same thing happened with Mughal army, and whereas Shivaji Maharaj's army was, that's the reason why I said, his army kept fighting for, even after his death, kept fighting for 27 years, ensured that Aurangzeb, who came from Delhi to down because Shivaji was dead, he wanted to come down now, take on the Maratha Empire. Marathas fought with him for 27 years and ensured that he was buried right here in Maharashtra. Okay, that was the difference between these other rulers and Maharaj, is that Maharaj always ensured that people fight for Swarajya, an idea or motivation or a principle, than fighting for a leader. Of course, they had extreme love for Shivaji Maharaj, but that was a difference. So as soon as there was for Netoji Palkar, who was called Prati Shivaji, who was waiting near a jungle with an army of 2,000 people. Okay, as soon as there was a signal made that Afzal Khan is killed, he came out of the jungle, and then all of them basically attacked the army, and Afzal Khan's army basically ran away. So I was going to cover Baji-Prabhu Deshpande because it's the. So think about it. What happened from here on? Maybe next time we can cover Baji-Prabhu Deshpande. Being I'm being considering the time, but this incident basically happened somewhere about 10th of November 1659. Okay, 10th of November. Please remember, Maharaj was so quick, so quick, that he knew this is the time where he could take on a lot of forts which were under Afzal Khan. So, because it was a major incident, Bijapur will take some time to think now, hey, Afzal Khan is dead. Okay. So between 10th of November till 28th of November, Shivaji Maharaj basically took 22 villages. Well, freed 22 villages and 18 forts out of Bijapur Empire. Okay. Went and established his army on all those forts. So think about it. 18 forts, winning 18 forts, because half of them, psychologically thinking, half of them, after killing Afzal Khan, if Shivaji Maharaj go with his army, or his army goes to any fort and say, look, we are here, the Killedar would actually give them the fort, because they are so scared. Killing a Rakshas or a monster like Afzal Khan was an impossible task. And when Shivaji killed it, that terror basically, even you imagine, you want to go to India sometimes and you want to visit 18 forts in 18 days. Imagine doing that. Impossible, right? Even after having so many cars and whatnot, all the equipment at our disposal. But he won all those 18 forts. And that is when basically Bijapur even got madder. And they basically got this guy called Siddhi Johar. And he was given 7 other Sardars with him, who came, and there was a battle of Panhala and Vishalgarh battle that we can talk about, and how Baji Prabhu did what he did. But I'll take a pause here and reserve remaining 5 seconds for any question answers. And we probably can cover, Babuji, we can cover the next story next time, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. We can post the recording.
Yeah. If there are any questions, please do ask. Not I don't claim that I know everything, but I'll try to answer now. And if I can't answer now, I'll definitely find the answer and get back to you.
But you may post the video. I'll ask some. You may post the video, please.
Pawarji,
Yes.
are you aware of any books that are good for kids to read? Like Amar Chitragatha, I know they have a lot of books about, not lot, but some of them, but something like we used to read in our history books in schools about Shivaji Maharaj, something like that as stories. Are you aware of any such books for kids?
I will definitely. I think we were, when our son was young, we were searching for similar things. But let me get back to you. Let me find a few friends around in India, and especially I think Pune. There has to be some book might have some book. Or I'll let me get back to you on this. There will be some Chitrakatha type books, you know.
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
I had to dakhवतेस जरा मला. I think we have one. My wife will just go and have a look.
Currently, in fact, in my family, half of them is from Mumbai. They are Marathi, and they both born and brought up in Mumbai. They both speak Marathi, so it's a.
Yeah, I'm more of a Maharashtrian than Tamilian.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah, even in fact, in many Bautiks, I heard a lot about Shivaji Maharaj, but in South Side, I haven't exposed to more stories, and and I can see the passion of you explaining each one of the incident. I don't know whether the kids can sort of get into that the importance of why it is, because they never been to a situation where freedom is an issue. They never experienced that one, so I don't know whether they can't even imagine it. So when the other day we were watching the RR movie, so those kinds of movies actually sort of gives them the things which we went through on that time, and on that context, if we look at that one, why do we do this? That they could feel that, Now someone else may think, then why do they kill it? Those sort of things, exactly. And the way he was, his passion about protecting the country, that is actually a very good motivation for all of us to have inside us to be the part of being this, the serving the country, in any ways, and part of the song is mainly on that one, you live for the country, that's why a lot of the things are around around Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj is the main part of all songs, discussion and talks. Yeah. Definitely, we would like to. Yeah, that's a book. Okay.
So that's the book, and which is really nicely actually depicted the story of Maharaj with chitras, and it's in Marathi. But like you saw, I'm struggling with translating into English because I was also from Marathi medium. But this is in Marathi. You will be able to show them pictures, and so I'll send the details of this book. Like I said, Babasaheb. It's written by Babasaheb Purandare and it's available Pune.
Yeah, okay.
And if you want to read, there is an English book as well. Okay, Setu Madhav Pagadi, and it's in English.
Okay. Can you send the book name and the author name?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll send the pictures to Babuji.
Oh,
And
sure.
then
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
no problem. No problem.
Yeah, maybe once when you come here, there is a big Marathi group here.
Mhm.
You know them, so you can
Oh, yes.
introduce it, and then maybe you can have a Marathi talk. Yeah. Anyway, we'll have more events like this. Because in fact, I want to learn more about Shivaji.
Yeah, we should actually share knowledge about Shivaji Maharaj. Even I have got extreme interest in talking about Savarkarji.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was how. These are the people who were never, they were never given the right heroics as they needed. People have twisted, turned the stories and whatnot. So we should at least be talking about the truth, okay, or at least what we know, and spread the word. This is what I try and do with my students. While teaching music, I kind of teach them certain, for example, we know, all know Ganpati Aarti, okay, when we bring Ganpati at home, but we should also be learning about Shivaji Maharaj's Aarti.
Hmm.
He was godlike, and for us at least, he is godlike for sure, and we should be able to proudly sing his Aarti. Things like that, culturally. So yeah, I would be happy to kind of sometime catch up in Gold Coast.
Yeah. In fact, the truth is that even our generation need to learn first this thing. And we are the lost generation, and we realize that one now. If we go like this, next one will be gone. We'll be back to square again. So to protect that one, we ourselves should learn these things first, and then we try to get them involved. Get the
Absolutely, we were lost so much in the career chase and things like that. But fortunately, my father was is sitting right he's sitting right here. My father was I'll show you my father. He's down from India. Um,
Namaste.
Namaste.
so he's the one who had extreme interest in history, adhyatma, hindutva, everything. In fact, I'm going to go. He's been invited at one of my students' place, and this is something that we should be spreading. I'm going to do this very soon. There was a book during the partitioning. You know how much of killing of Hindus that was done in Pakistan and what they did. What you know is probably not even 1% of the truth. There was an Indian Marathi fella who actually was living in Karachi, and then fortunately he was lucky enough to, entire train was cut, but he was in a guard's compartment and he was saved. I read this book way back, the first Avrutti. It was published in 1946, of course, but that was banned by the government. Eventually 1984 it was reprinted, okay, and there were only a handful copies available in Mumbai. My father somehow got a copy. I read it in 1984. I was 10 years old. And since then, it is imprinted in my head. And that is, of course, in Marathi. I'm thinking about obviously doing the Vachan of that in Marathi to Marathi people. But more importantly, I'm thinking of because that's not available. I called the Prakashakas asking them, hey, why are you not reprinting? He said, no, we can't. We have been not allowed to. I'm thinking of translating that into Hindi and English and then just make it viral on social media as a PDF, free PDF. People can't buy it. The last known print that I have is 1986, and which was available for 25 rupees. And after that, there is no print. So that people do not understand. So I think we should do these kind of efforts for sure.
Yeah, sure. We should definitely catch up. So keep posting on the events what you do, and we can make. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you sing. Can you sing one small bhajan? Is it possible, like a couple of lines?
Not at the moment, because first of all, when I speak, but obviously music is on 24/7 at our place. So maybe I'll try now that you requested. Like I said, since the topic today is bhajan, Shivaji Maharaj, why don't we sing something something on his for him. That's can you hear me? Okay. Jaya Dev, Jaya Dev, Jaya Jaya Shivaraya, Jaya Jaya Shivaraya, Yaya Ananya Charana Arya Taraya, Jaya Dev, Jaya Dev, Jaya Jaya Shivaraya, Yaya Ananya Charana Arya Taraya, Jaya Dev, Jaya Dev, Jaya Jaya Shivaraya, आर्यांचा देशावरील लेच्छांचा घाला आला आला सावध हो शिव भूपाला सद्गदिता भूमाता दे तुझा केला करुणा रव भेदुनि तव हृदयन का गेला जय देव जय देव जय जय शिवराया जय जय शिवराया याया अनन्य चरणा आर्या ताराया. Hopefully the people who understand Marathi would understand the meaning of it, but yeah, when we have time, I'm happy to explain the meaning. It's very good. And you know what? Who wrote this Aarti? Anyone knows? This Aarti was written in England. I'll give you a clue. This Aarti was written in England by one of the not much spoken freedom fighter, greatest freedom fighter, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. This was written by Savarkarji. It's such a beautiful words and beautifully composed as well. But yeah, that's India for us, isn't it? We have forgotten the real heroes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. We will conclude today. We'll do the prarthana and then we'll conclude. Thank you very much for your time and especially your passion. You know, we should actually learn from this passion. We really appreciate your effort and time. Look forward to see more and help you in any ways to spread these words around and spread these stories around. You may stop the recording.